on Friday morning, another report from the Wall Street Journal, and it keeps looking very grim for Vince McMahon. So there is an active federal investigation into Vince McMahon as it pertains to sexual assault and sex trafficking. We know that last July, there was a search warrant issued for Vince McMahon's phone, and WWE had to disclose this in an SEC filing. So this doesn't come out of left field. This is just confirmation that there is a federal investigation ongoing. No federal charges yet have been laid, but they are reporters Joe Palazzolo, Khadija Safdar, and Ted Mann noted in the latest piece that prosecutors in New York have contacted women who had previously accused McMahon of sexual misconduct. And this coming a week after the lawsuit filed by Janelle Grant. This also from the Wall Street Journal. The other women named in the grand jury subpoena include a WWE contractor whom McMahon allegedly sent unsolicited nude photos and sexually harassed, a former WWE wrestler who said McMahon coerced her into giving him oral sex, former WWE referee Rita Chatterton, who publicly accused McMahon of raping her, a spa manager who said McMahon assaulted her at a Southern California resort, and a former WWE employee who alleged the head of talent relations at the company at the time, John Laurenitis, demoted her after she broke off an affair with him. We also got the comment from Ed Brennan to Vice on Thursday. He is the Tampa-based lawyer that is representing John Laurenitis, and that definitely showed you sort of where the cracks are here just among McMahon and Laurenitis. Edward Brennan stated, Mr. Laurenitis denies the allegations in the misguided complaint and will be vigorously defending these charges in court, not the media. Like the plaintiff, Mr. Laurenitis is a victim in this case, not a predator. The truth will come out. Read the allegations, read the federal statute, power, control, employment, supervisory capacity, dictatorial sexual demands with repercussions if not met. Count how many times in the complaint Vince exerts control over both of them. So, I mean, this is certainly showing you that John Laurenitis is, you take this comment, he is not even disputing that these things happened, just that he is trying to now position himself as being in the line of fire of Vince McMahon. So this is going to be very ugly, and it would certainly suggest that John Laurenitis is not going to be on Team McMahon in this defense.
Does it suggest to you that we might actually be closer to a lawsuit, or are we still, in the very sort of a likely scenario of this being settled outside of the court?
Well, I think at this point, regardless of a settlement, I think the larger focus is now this federal investigation and potential charges being laid. It's not going to simply be a civil matter. This could be criminal charges that are presented, whether they are solely against Vince McMahon, if they have, if it's a federal investigation and we know that it's going back to at least last summer, there's going to be no stone left unturned. And what all is learned here, the women that they have spoken to, if other women are going to come forward. Once we're talking about criminal proceedings, it really does not matter if there are NDAs in place. If crimes occurred, that overrides an NDA. And this would certainly tell you, is John Laurenitis willing to cooperate here in the sense that he can probably corroborate a lot of what happened, and flipping on Vince McMahon here. Mm-hmm. Again, Vince McMahon, he has his right to a defense. He has denied this. He said he is going to vigorously defend himself. But this is a pretty dark picture. And now that you have the feds coming in on top of this, this goes beyond just a civil matter that, as awful as this complaint was that we all read last week, the end result was money in that situation. And now we're talking about potential criminal charges.
So the feds were already investigating prior to Janelle Grant's lawsuit, correct?
Well, we know that there was a search warrant. Now we know that there is an active federal investigation. There is no, we don't know what was found last summer. Were they still pursuing anything? What they looked for, did it come up empty? But they issued a subpoena. They had a search warrant for Vince McMahon's phone, which I think after you read that complaint, that's a pretty alarming piece of evidence that they have and access to. And they are going to have access to, company documents, emails, internal communication. There is going to be, this is where settlement or no settlement, this is going to be, you can settle and avoid the whole discovery process. But again, that's the civil matter. And now we are getting into a much more the deep end of the potential, however you want to characterize this for the company itself as well.
Yeah. But this is a story that continues to grow. I mean, we wonder, hey, like with the wrestling news cycle, with the news cycle, these types of stories tend to maybe just kind of fade off into the distance. At least a week in, this has only grown. It's that much bigger.
It's been consistently covered like in mainstream outlets all week long, that's a lengthy amount of time in that news cycle. I mean, I've been reached out for like multiple things. It's like big places, and they have a lot of attention on it. I just wanted to read this one last thing. A News Nation, they interviewed Ann Callis, who is the attorney representing Janelle Grant, stating that Grant claims that she was abused by McMahon and was allegedly forced to have sex with WWE's former head of talent relations, John Laurenitis. McMahon has since stepped down from his position as executive chairman of WWE's parent company, but Grant's attorney says that's not enough. Quote, it's been a long process, and she, referring to Grant, wants to speak out for any other victims and eradicate this culture of corruption that has permeated every cell of the WWE. Callis said that since Grant is going up against a multi-billion-dollar company and very powerful men, they wanted to lay out all the facts to even the playing field. In the filing, Grant provided over 300 allegations of sexual abuse. Quote, we had the truth and we had the facts, Callis said. The part of the complaint includes the negligence of WWE knowingly letting the sexual abuse and coercive control exist. Nobody within the company extended Grant any help or tried to intervene. She was an island unto herself, Callis said. She felt extremely isolated. She felt victimized. She felt that she was a prisoner. But Callis insinuated Grant wasn't alone. Other possible victims are starting to come forward. Callis said, my office and my inbox have had a barrage of people wanting to come forward to attest about this culture of corruption and also possible victims. We are just beginning now to wade through all of this, but we're frankly overwhelmed, end quote.
Yeah. I think there are certainly a lot of people that aren't satisfied simply with the removal of Vince McMahon from TKO. And now a lot of people might claim that they are, but I get the sense that there's getting to be enough public pressure that it's not. And I'm very curious to see if TKO and Endeavor make any moves to address that, if it continues to be a growing sort of public demand to see who else might have been attached to Vince McMahon and how much of a clearing of the house that they feel like they would need to do to satisfy a section of the audience.
Yeah, I mean, in the immediate aftermath, I think that, well, certainly you have seen Netflix that seems to be of the belief
they're moving ahead.
Vince
Slim
McMahon
Jim
is
too.
gone. Slim Jim as well.
Mm-hmm.
Other broadcasters, I mean, NBC Universal has pretty much like they have not, stated anything publicly in terms of, putting out some kind of a comment or anything like that. I mean, Fox is getting out of,
but Ronda Rousey has not. And how many other Ronda Rouseys are out there? And how many people are Ronda Rousey inspiring?
Right. And I mean, it's also been, those within the company have also not talked publicly about this. I saw John Cena on Stephen Colbert last night. I mean, this never came up. It's, really, when you look at things of people that I really applaud the Bellas for putting out a statement. Like, I imagine that they have received a lot of hatred over this past week just because of their connection to John Laurenitis. And I'm sure that they felt the need that they had to put something out there, but they're two of the few that have gone out publicly and said something. Like Dwayne Johnson. I mean, here is somebody that he has plastered all of his social channels with highlights of that appearance at the New York Stock Exchange, and like not a frame of Vince McMahon in any of those highlights. I mean, he has been erased from that day at the, like, think about this, that we are just like 10 days removed from Vince McMahon there at the New York Stock Exchange.
Mm-hmm.
This was 10 days ago we're talking about. So yes, I feel at this point it's going to be WWE hoping that this is a meaningful enough move that Vince McMahon is gone. John Laurinaitis has been gone for years, and that will be satisfying. But I mean, Ann Callis and Janelle Grant, like, they are beating this drum in the complaint that this was a cultural problem within the company. There are 4 unnamed executives. And if there is a federal investigation, I think that they are, again, as I mentioned, turning over every stone.
Not just that, I mean, maybe even some examples from the Shawn Michaels, media call that we're probably going to be talking about too. A lot of questions about the continued cultural sort of protections in place in the company itself. How is TKO going to address those?